Welcome back, everybody. After long moments of pondering and discussing ideas with my executive team as to what the fucking upload, a buddy of mine decided we should tackle on remasters and remakes. So today we're going to be looking over what makes a remake good and bad, why some games get them, and why others really don't. For starters, we need to obviously go over what's the difference, and while it is pretty clear what it is, some people don't know it. A remaster is when the game is given a polishing with most functions remaining the same. An example of that would be the Uncharted series 1 through 3, all of which being remastered from the PS3 to the PS4. The graphics were polished, they worked out some bugs in the gameplay, and overall just improved the base game with a modern day touch-up, which is how all remasters should be. Now a remake is when you take an existing game and build it from the ground up. So for our example, we use Yakuza Kiwami 2, a remake of Yakuza 2 on the PlayStation 2, which takes just the premise of the original game, the combat and the story and characters, while building everything else from zero. So a remake will usually have features from the original game completely removed and add new ones as well. A big example of this for Yakuza 2 is that a third small map was removed entirely from the remake, as well as a mini game where you'd work as a host in a cabaret club, with what's essentially a newer version of the cabaret club management from Yakuza 0. Now that we have our explanations out of the way, let's start complaining about shitty company decisions. I think it's best to get the bad out of the way first. The Last of Us are two examples of both bad remakes and remasters. To clear things up though, the original Last of Us remastered is very great. It's high quality and it does its job very well at remastering a great game to match the quality of current games. However, the same cannot be said for The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. The game initially released onto the PS4 and a PS5 port was quickly made for it as well, with the game having cutting edge graphics that are extremely detailed. But just 4 years later, boom, a remaster was dropped. So let's see how the graphics looked updated now that we have a proper comparison between the two. Honestly, just by looking at this clip, we can see a big rise in the quality. See, the first game wasn't able to render things in like the snow before this properly, and I'm fucking with you because I haven't even shown the remastered graphics yet. The difference is so small, it really doesn't change anything visually, and mechanically, while it might slightly play differently, it's clear that the only reason this remaster was even made was just so that they could sell the same game again. The greed doesn't stop there though. 2 years before The Last of Us 2 Remaster came out, The Last of Us Part 1 was created, which remade the original Last of Us, which was already remastered years ago, but because of the sequel and the PS5, they decided what they needed was to make a remake. So let's compare the two, and yeah, it's a graphical improvement. But was it a necessary one? Remakes shouldn't just be made for the sole purpose of being able to make one. There has to be some sort of reason why a game got a full-on remake. In my previous example, Yakuza Kiwami 2 was remade because Yakuza 2 was a PlayStation 2 game, meaning if they wanted to just remaster it, which they did, they'd force people new to the series to play an out-of-date, buggy, and graphically unpleasing game. So naturally, the smartest decision was to remake it. The Last of Us Remastered was already a very accessible game to play, and for a cheap price as well. So to remake a game that didn't need it in the first place is just trying to get more money out of people rather than fix the original game and issues that existed in the first place. Now remakes have more potential to be bad than a remaster because it's like building everything from zero, while a remaster is more simple, like cleaning the dust off of the game. That's not to say that remasters can't be worse than the original, because as we saw with the GTA Definitive Trilogy, remasters have the possibility to be something far worse than the original. So what went wrong exactly? How can you mess up a remaster of a currently existing game just by touching up the details for a game that's already been considered good? Well, for starters, the graphics themselves were an issue. Now, I'm not going to sit here and lie to your face and say the original San Andreas looks graphically better in all cases, but I will say the remaster fucked up so hard that there's several moments where the original is preferable. There's also several moments of pure laziness. They didn't want to bother putting in the effort to make the game look better. They just wanted to do the minimum amount of effort needed to get people to buy it with zero intention of the game being good. The GTA Remastered Trilogy is just a prime example of shitty and worthless remasters that never deserved your time or money, far worse than even The Last of Us Part 2 Remaster. While earlier I said not every game needs a remake due to accessibility or how it's aged, I think there are times when a game gets remade and it's fine. Specifically, I would say the Resident Evil 4 remake is an example of a game that didn't need one, but between the original and the new remake, you wouldn't find anyone who'd complain that it got one. The real reason why it was remade though is because Capcom had been remaking all of their original Resident Evil games. With 2 and 3 being a major success, it was only a matter of time before 4 got the same treatment. I know I spent most of this video just discussing the bad and the ugly of remakes and remasters, but it's also important to know that not all of them are that bad. There have been several in the past few years that have gone above and beyond to make an improvement on the original game. Spyro the Reignited Trilogy, the Uncharted Trilogy that I mentioned already, the Jak and Daxter collection, Edition, all of the Kingdom Hearts games being ported to PS4, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2, Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3. Even if a remaster does something as small as just fixing audio and graphical issues on a previously made game, I think it's fine so long as there's a real reason to buy the game. Like, accessibility issues were horrible. A big topic among remasters and remakes are people wanting their favorite game to have a remake or a remaster. With every new remake announced, people will have mixed opinions, and among those are debates on whether their favorite game will get a remake or not. Black Ops 2 is a frequent topic for remasters among Call of Duty fans, and honestly I don't blame them. While a full-fledged remake of the game sounds awful, a remaster sounds like a good way to reintroduce the game today with improved graphics, and could potentially fix the issue in transit zombies, as much as I've talked about that already. To add my own input, I think a Jak and Daxter remake would be nice. The original Jak and Daxter came out more than 20 years ago and has since been remastered, but the series was very promising at the time, and it honestly feels like missed potential to just forget about it like it never existed. A remake on the original Jak and Daxter should be like a combination of the original and the sequel, trying to mix elements of both the games into a single compact package, keeping the platforming but adding more of the shooting gameplay added in the sequel, but not so much that it just becomes the second game all over again. Because as similar as Jak 1 and 2 are in the gameplay, in 2, the gameplay revolves around the weapons you own, while Jak 1 is more about working with your environment. Remakes and remasters have existed for a long time. So long as games are being made, remakes and remasters will continue to exist with them. A few years from now, who knows what games would have been remade or remastered, and by the looks of it, I can think of another series that might get a few remakes in the coming years. And that covers everything I wanted to say. Leave a comment. Let me know if you agree or think I'm a fucking idiot. Let me know what game you want to see remastered or remade. Like the video if you liked it. And that's all I've got for today. Subscribe please.